The most important thing when it comes to shading is using light and an object. So let's use something simple, like a ball. So we can see exactly where the ball is and exactly where the shadow is cast. Here's the light coming from right here, from up here. Here's where the light is hitting, and you can see where the light is hitting, it's a lot lighter, and then when the light is not hitting, it's a lot darker back here. So it looks something like this. You see it's dark back here and it's lighter over here. So whenever light is shining on something, the color's gonna be more vibrant and it's gonna look a lot easier to see. And anything where it's darker, you can't see. Just think about it with light and dark. And as I move, you see that changes. And then the shadow is gonna be cast back here. So now let's use that same principle. All right, same exact principle or concept. We're gonna use this for light and this for the shadow. Now let's start by casting the light somewhere. So let's start with having a light directly on here. Oh, right? We're doing this. This area is more vibrant, this area is darker. So what's gonna happen with the shadows is anything behind here is gonna be the darkest because it's further away from the light. This is gonna be a little bit more dark, but not as dark as this. And this is gonna be dark. So this area is gonna be darkest, this area right here, because it's furthest away from the light source. So this area is darkest. Then this area is darker, and we can see that it's dark, but maybe not as dark as the area below it, but it's still relatively dark. And this area is just dark, but of course it's going this way is getting darker. So this area going away from the light source is darker. So this is probably dark, but it's not super duper dark. And of course this area has light on it, so it's not as dark. So if you were to just draw this, if I was to draw this without those gradients, it would look something like this. Okay, now let's cast the light some other places. Let's say the light is coming from, directly overhead. Light is directly overhead. So this area up here is going to be lightest. So this is going to be light here. And again, same thing. Now the darkest area is down here because this area is furthest away from the light source. And then you have a darker area, and then you have a dark area. Okay, so this is darkest, this is darker, and this is dark. And the reason for that is because the light is shining from the top. So again, this area is going to be very dark. This area is going to be dark, but not as dark as the area below. It's still going to be pretty dark though. Sometimes you can't even really tell the difference. And then this area is going to be dark, but not super duper dark. So if we were just to draw this, it would look something like this. Darker, and then this area is just super dark. Super duper dark. And it looks something like this. So you can see that now we can do that with any other place. We can say, okay, what if the light is coming from here? Now, if you apply the same principle, same thing. Light is shining here. So what's this? This area is darkest. This area is darker. And this area is dark, but not as dark. Okay, and if we were to draw this, same thing. It would look like darkest, dark, but not super duper dark, and then dark. Okay, now you can practice that with different areas of light sources of where they're coming from, depending. But this is just with a circle, and it can vary with different shapes. Tell me what would happen if the light source were like here and from like here. Give me that as a practice. So this is for you guys to practice here. The light source is coming from here, and the light source is coming from here. So pause the video, practice right here. Let's do a triangle. Okay, a little bit more complex shape, but we're using something like this, a triangle. So same thing. Now, if the light were coming from here, it's the same concept where this area would be lighter and this area would be, the area furthest away would be darker. Here would be darker, right here, because it's not really from the light. Then this area would be still dark, but not, super duper dark, but still pretty dark. And then this area would be the least dark, but still kind of dark. So if I were to draw this, it would look something like this. It would look something like this. So the light's coming from here. Okay, now why is this important? Well, when we draw faces, for example, we start with a line like this, and then we draw kind of almost like a few lines like this, where it's kind of triangular. And even for the nose, we could probably draw something a little bit more triangular. Okay, so this is like your nose, for example, and this was like the head. Okay, this is your head, and this area is your jaw. Okay, so this is the jaw, like from here to here. This is your jaw, and we're not going to pay attention to this area right now. This is the jaw, but this is the head and the nose. So again, if you see, if you're doing a light source and you have a head here, like this is the top of the head, then you know that, hey, this area is where the light is shining from, so this area should be the light area, right? Same thing, just like we talked about with these circles. And you have a complex shape like the triangle for the nose. And so you know, same thing, the light is hitting here, so there should be more light here and less light here. So same thing, I would shade something like this, and I might not shade it all the way, but I'd do something like this, and then I'd see that the light is hitting here, so maybe there's a little bit more shadows that are cast here. But the problem with the face is there's more angles. You know, I'd probably say that this area is darker. I could say this area is the darker area, just because the light isn't just casting here, but it might be casting this entire area. But let's just imagine it was casting it here, then yes, we would have like a lighter area, a darker area here, and then the lightest area right here. So like that, that's the reason we can do that. So we did a triangle, we did a circle. Now, instead of this, let's do eraser. It's just a square. And if you have anything square shaped, you know, just a square. I guess this is more of a rectangular shape. So let's just say rectangle or circle, or sorry, rectangle or square. Do it with one of those. So the way to shade those, same thing. You see exactly where the light's hitting. We're not talking about where shadows are cast right now. We're just talking about light. So light is coming here, and you know the drill. Same thing, darkest here, darker here, and light here. So you see that this is the dark area, this is the dark, but still not fully dark, and then this is the area that's like least dark, depending on where the light source is coming from. And the light, you can play around with it on figures and stuff. Like, sorry if it's a little bit dusty, but if you look, you see that the shadows that are cast on his face are just completely different, depending on where the light source is. You know, if it's right directly on his face, look where the shadows are. If it's away from his face, see how it changes? So that's a very important thing that you have to keep in mind as well. In terms of where shadows are cast, it's going to be usually your shadow is going to be behind you. So just like this example, we saw that the light is coming from here, the shadow is behind here. And same thing with like the ball, for example. You know, if you see, there's the light source and it's right behind it. That's where the shadow is. So same thing here. I'll use pencil for the shadow. So same thing, the light is here. The shadow would be right behind it like this, because you know the light's coming from here and the shadow is going to be right behind here. Likewise, light's coming down from here, so then the shadow is going to be like from here, because the shadow is, again, away from the light source. It's away, it's like hiding, and it's casting behind you. So just like a pencil, for example, if you look at a pencil, you see the light is coming from right here. This is where my light source is, where it's right here. It's my light source shining down here. Right behind it, hiding away, is the shadow of the pen. So same thing, depending on where the light source is. Now what about something like here? Here, the light is shining back here, so the shadow is hiding behind, away from the light, because your shadow wants to hide away. Okay, so I want you to practice these two, and I want you to practice, let's just say something a little bit tough here, like this, and then I want you to comment and tell me how it went,